I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify, who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
Joe Biden faces a monumental challenge, tackling a pandemic that's killed more than 400,000 Americans and the economic crash that came with it.
It's not hard to see that we're in the middle of the once-in-several-generations economic crisis with a once-in-several-generations public health crisis.
On a personal level, Joe Biden has experienced more than his share of crises. 50 years ago, his first wife, Nelia, was killed in a car crash, along with their infant daughter. And then his son, Beau, died of brain cancer in 2015.
He didn't like to talk about it. For a long time, he was very reluctant to talk about the car crash.
Evan Osnos has just written a biography on Joe Biden.
He didn't like the idea of being pushed into the role of playing the victim, of sort of using it for emotional purposes. And it was only later, as he got a little bit older, that he came to understand that there was something of public value in it, because other people could look at him, people who had been through terrible experiences, and they would say, well, if this guy can do it, well, maybe I can find my way back. And here we are now as a country, literally on our backs here because of the COVID epidemic, the economic collapse, and now this political convulsion. And what he stands for, essentially, just in the sheer scar tissue on his life, is the idea that you can pick yourself up and soldier on. That's the image he wants people to take from his own life.
It's kind of emotional for me.
Joe Biden made no attempt to disguise his emotions as he left Delaware for the inauguration in Washington.
When I die, Delaware will be written on my heart.
Biden's victory in November was his third run for the White House.
Like, we need help to beat sleepy Joe Biden? I don't think so.
Donald Trump marshalled all the insults he could muster.
Oh, I'd rather run against, I think, Biden than anybody. I think he's the weakest mentally.
But in the end, 81 million Americans voted Joe Biden into office.
Are you surprised he's here? Like, up until the point where he wins this election, this reads like a tale of just unfulfilled hope, really, as far as the presidency is concerned.
Look, his whole life has been a series of almost unimaginable turns. 2008, there was nothing preordained about the idea that this senator who had tried and failed for the presidency would get tapped to be vice president to the first black president. That right there was another twist in this biography that nobody could have imagined on paper.
We shall overcome. Yes, we can.
Is this the biggest twist, though? The fact that he's now heading to the White House?
It is and it isn't, because this, after all, is the thing he has been going for since he was a high school student.
Biden will grapple with some of the biggest challenges an incoming president has ever faced. Last week, he began the fight, announcing a $2.4 trillion effort to tackle the pandemic and recession.
I'm convinced we're ready to get this done. The very health of our nation is at stake.
In some ways, he's putting himself in the tradition of Franklin Roosevelt, who stood up in 1933 in the depths of the Great Depression and said, we need action, and we need action now. The challenge before him is almost diabolical. I mean, it is a crisis 4 times over. It's not just COVID, it's not just climate change, it's the economy, and of course, it is this political implosion that we're dealing with.
He's old, isn't he? I mean, he's 78. The median age of the United States is 38. Do you think he can relate to the American people, given that gap?
Part of the reason why he tapped Kamala Harris as his vice president is he wanted somebody who was of another generation. I mean, who was substantially younger than he is.
As one of his longtime colleagues in the Senate, who happened to be a Republican, once said, if you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, you've got a problem. He is as good a man as God ever created.
He's very aware of this sense that people deserve a fair shot and that nobody else should carry themselves any better than anybody else. And I think one of the things that even in this moment of tremendous division in American life, people are sort of desperate for is a president who says, this is not really about me. This is about you. And let's see if I can try to help you live a little bit of a better life.
It's interesting when the theory is that the pendulum swings back the other way, and we certainly thought it would go that way with Trump, but everything that we've seen from Trump has shown us that maybe the way we think isn't what's going to actually turn out. And then it does happen, because you couldn't get a further pendulum swing from Trump than Biden.
Do you know what? Actually, what's interesting, the book makes it clear, is he's also a pendulum swing from Obama. So Obama and Trump are both these outsiders who come in to fix Washington and all that sort of stuff. He's the insight. He's the ultimate machine guy. He's used to working with politicians. So it'll be a very interesting presidency to watch, I think. The book, by the way, is there. Evan Osnos's biography of the incoming president, Joe Biden, American Dreamer, is out now. And
with so much content online, it's sometimes hard to keep up with it all. And let's face it, who has the time? The Project YouTube has you covered with the stories that matter. Hit subscribe for a daily list of the news that you need to know.